And he's a friend of mine from some time back. He's a major, he understands Islam, and he understands Islamic economic theory as well as Western economic theory. And he is here in New York at a conference, and we're going to be talking about these issues. He's from the country of Indonesia, has to catch a plane back there now. But Sofyan, so glad we could fit in this hour conversation with you.
Thank you very much. See you again.
Welcome to Gotham City again, or to New York City. And I know they've had the major conference, accounting. You're also a professor of economics and accounting, and you've been attending that, and you're going back. But we've talked in the past in programs with you about accounting, and it's a very big subject, and creative accounting and different issues. But I thought maybe we could concentrate in this hour on a couple of things. One, you're from Indonesia, the largest Islamic country in terms of population in the world, and you're also a professor of economic theory, and you understand economic theory. And we wanted to talk some about Islam and also the concept of Sharia. And because that term is very misunderstood. It's used for propagandistic purposes to take some of the most outlandish aspects of it to make it characteristic of, but it has deep roots. But anyway, welcome very, very much to conversation.
Thank you.
Maybe we could start off by talking. Indonesia is the largest Islamic country, and Islam is the largest, perhaps, religious affiliation in the world, growing rapidly, something on to 25 to 30% of the world population Islam, and it's growing. Mm-hmm. And maybe we could start off with that. You're Islamic,
yes,
and Indonesia is the largest Islamic country in the world. Mm. What are the characteristics of Islam, and particularly this idea of Sharia, that is characteristic of the Islamic world that's growing so rapidly, and such propaganda is being directed against in the West? What do we mean when we talk about Sharia?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Harahap. Sharia is like a law.
A law. Mm-hmm.
From the God.
From
God. From the Allah.
Okay, okay.
And religion, like Islam, is given by Allah to the people, right, to the humankind. Okay. For what? For the interest of the human life.
Is it distinct from the law of Moses, or the laws, or the understanding of universe as of Jesus or Christianity? Or?
Allah gives the law to the Moses, to the David, to the Solomon.
Solomon.
Yeah. Same. The core of the law is to make the what we call it to determine that Allah one, and the source of rule must be from the one. That's God.
I mentioned to you before we started taping Noah Feldman. He's a major scholar and so forth. He wrote a piece in the New York Times Magazine, a long piece on Islam and Sharia. And he said, in his way of thinking, for us in the West to understand it, because we have a long tradition of separation of religion and the secular world, Thomas Jefferson, separation of church and state and so forth. But he said that the Sharia is really an attempt on the part of the Muslim Islamic world, and he's a scholar of the Islam, is to gain a sense of what we would roughly call a rule of law, that we have a system that we can agree upon. We tend to do that within the secular realm here in the West for the most part. But does that make some sense that it's trying to get a system of ethics and a system of justice and a system of morality, that a means by which you could determine these very important issues that is dealt with both in Islam and in Christianity and in a secular-oriented view of a divided state and church, as we call it, system?
I think there is a little differences between this idea and what is in Islam. In Islam, the rule of law only come from the God, right? God.
Yes, that's important.
Yes.
And it used to be that way in the West before we had what was called the Enlightenment.
Yeah, that is why I told you that there is similarity.
Okay, right, okay.
But what is different is, in Islamic view, the rule of law come from the God, and he also maintain that the rules is implemented and applicable, and he make a sample doing by Rasulullah, the Prophet Muhammad. And the Prophet Muhammad also take the rule from Allah and also from the other prophet like Moses. Jesus.
Yeah, they're of the book.
So Muhammad acknowledged those rules as far as come from the God.
And built upon them.
And built upon.
Yeah.
What we have now is the rule of law, divine, stem from the rationality, which is very limited.
Okay, that's a big assumption. You recommend. You understand.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's I told you that it's Islamic view.
That's the Islamic view.
Islamic view.
Okay.
Assume that the best rule
is from God.
From the God.
Okay. Now, you do understand the Enlightenment.
Yes.
And science.
And you know, I want to link with the Sharia.
Okay.
The religion is Sharia. Sharia is religion.
Are there various interpretations of Sharia?
Yeah, many interests, but the simple thing is Sharia is the rule of law from the God.
But we should understand there are interpretations, because here you understand, if I may, Sofyan, we're old friends, right? Here in much of the United States, Sharia is identified with cutting off people's hands, putting women in disgraceful things that they have to wear around, their beating of women, and all of these things that are part of a cultural pattern of some people of the Islamic faith, but it is not characteristic of Islam per se, in your view. See, it's a propaganda campaign directed against Islam, because Islam is the new enemy that used to be served by the communist ideology.
Right.
All right, we understand each other?
What you say is a little part of the fiqh. The fiqh means the interpretation on Sharia.
Makes a big difference, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sharia, the makashut, we call it, the aims of Sharia is how to make humankind be happy, peaceful,
and just.
And just, not only here, but also in hereafter.
How did these other cultural characteristics of the burqa and the hand cutting and these kind, you understand what I'm saying when I say that?
You have.
How did they come in? Is it a cultural overlay from
no,
other
it's not the culture.
It's not intrinsic to Islam.
There is also in Quran, the divine, how, for example, if you kill one, you have to be killed.
Like Hammurabi, we had that back in Mesopotamia. Right. Eye for an eye and that kind of thing.
That is the rule from the God.
That was thought of from the God there in Persia or in Zoroaster. There's a lot of that.
Sure. So this is a small part of the fiqh. And fiqh is the interpretation of Sharia.
That's very
Sharia
important.
is the social well-being. What is the good for the humankind is, we call it, the aim of Sharia. So, for example, it could be one interpretation of fiqh could be stopped, terminated, if it is not good for the humankind.
Okay. Now, do you understand what I'm saying? Maybe you don't, because you're living in Indonesia, but there is a propaganda and public relations industry that targets Islam as the enemy of the rational and legitimate way in which the world is organized.
We feel it that. We feel
right. That's a major thing, part of the characteristic.
That is a politic. It is not interpretation.
No.
It is politic, right?
Yeah, it's political.
Politicization to get the power.
Right.
Because Islam is very powerful.
Yes, it is. And growing.
And growing.
It is growing.
And it is an enemy of, say, what we call it, the enemy of who hold the power now.
Who the Illuminati? Some people call
something
it that.
like that.
Or the bankers who
Yes.
now it used to be feudal lords in the feudal days.
Yeah,
and with their cardinals and things.
Who control the world now? Of course, everybody who control now doesn't like if another people will control him, right? So that is why he try to make propaganda to make stigmatized and also to socialize that this enemy is dangerous for you.
Right. That's right.
So
and then so that fiqh is really important in terms of interpretation from within Islam.
Yeah.
And what they're doing, many of the people who will do that will only take certain aspects of it. And you could do that with any system. You could do it with an economic system. You could do it with a political, moral system, or religious system.
Mostly,
really open to it. You take one little part of it, say that's characteristic of the whole, and we should try and understand in the West, in our own interest, let's say, the Islamic world writ large, including the scholars and the people who are well acquainted with the Enlightenment and with the things of science and so forth, and that there's a great deal of that characteristic of the Islamic community writ large. It's not all people that are living by ancient tribal things that are part of a culture, but not necessarily part of Islam. We should understand that better than we do.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, seems to me.
So I think we have to analyze this situation by using history and political science.
Right.
Not on interpretation of religion.
Well, no, but to keep in mind that they have that sense of the importance of it in that generic way. I mean, the religion is, as you say, it's not just, you don't separate church and state. You haven't made, or have they, or do they, some countries? Do they separate church and state, or do they think of Islam is, in a certain sense, like Noah Feldman said, it's a way of getting an overall structure that affects everything, including political structure, way of life, everyday life, and so forth. It's more all-inclusive in terms of having an influence on society.
Majority in Muslim country, they do the same thing. They separate religion and state.
They do?
They do. Majority. Why?
Majority.
Majority of Muslim country, not Islamic country, Muslim country, apply. Muslim and Islam is different.
Oh, okay. Maybe you could spell that out, because I'm not aware.
Islam is the norm from the God. Muslim is who claim he is a Muslim. He claimed that he is Islam, but it is not necessary. A Muslim practicing Islam.
Okay, so, and that distinction is very important. We should pay attention to more. I should, and I'm talking to myself. You're educating me here, and that then many of the divisions that have come in the Western world, the United States, Europe, and so forth, over the idea of the separation of church and state after the Enlightenment is operative in the Muslim or Islamic world as well.
Yes.
And more in the Muslim world, perhaps, than in the Muslim. There's more of the secular concern with science and all of the intellectual things.
And that is because of how the West colonialized the Muslim world, right?
Okay.
And the West teach the Muslim world how to do economy, how to do politics, and how to manage the society, right? Well, and then, of course, they will use their own paradigm. They will use their own ideology. So now, I think we can say the second generation of Muslim.
Okay.
Still apply what is ruled by the West. However,
because they were taught often at universities in Europe and so forth.
Yes, of course.
And yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
However, now there are a view or maybe growing Muslim expert on politics, on economy, and now they know that economic system, political system now is different from what stated in the Quran, and then they try to formulate.
Right.
And one of the good example is the in economics.
Right, and that's
The
your
economic system,
study of economics.
Yes,
you're a student
economic
of
system prevail now. It is not comply with what stated in Quran.
In the Quran, does it apply in terms of what is understood by the Muslim world? Do you understand that distinction? You've drawn that distinction now, and where are there examples in the Muslim world? Apart from the Islamic world, maybe we make that distinction. That's an important distinction.
What I'm saying is the
Malaysia
expert on Islam economy, not the Muslim, because like Saudi
That's
Arabia,
an important distinction.
like Saudi Arabia, for example, they are Muslim, but they don't practice Islamic economy.
They are Muslim, but they don't
practice Islamic economy.
Islamic economy. Right. Okay. That's
so what
very
I'm saying
that's
is
a good framework for understanding. Yeah. Right.
What I'm
because
saying,
economics theory is very important. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Islam, you cannot separate it economy with politics. We cannot separate it religion with society.
But a Muslim might.
Yeah, the Muslim might.
Okay, and 50% of the Islamic world is Muslim,
maybe
more than Islamic?
Maybe more.
And what's the trend in that dialectic between Muslim and Islamic in terms of representing the broader world that is characterized as Islamic?
Very few.
Very what?
Very few. If
very few
you who practicing Islam.
Very few. So the Islam fundamentalists, if you want to call it, or Islamicist or something,
I
are
don't want to use
relatively
it.
small in terms of those who are open to dealing with the modern world in keeping with a Muslim view. Okay, that's very important that we understand that difference. Okay.
So back to the economic system.
Yes, sir.
The expert of on Islam economics try to reformulate, to criticize the prevailing system, and they build the new system. Who are like what happened in America now. The root of the problem is the debt, speculation, greedy, etc., which is not allowed in Islam.
Okay, now I want to follow up a little bit on this differentiation between the Muslim, and which I'm taking to mean that they're more in accord with the secular world as we understand it in the West and so forth, and Islam, and follow up on that, and then bring in the economic theory, as you say. A huge country to your immediate vicinity is China, growing very, very rapidly in terms of understanding economics. And they have, it seems to me, I saw Mr. Hu again on television talking to the assembled huge communist bureaucracy that runs that economy, saying, we are all the socialists and we worship at the altar of Karl Marx. That's imported from Germany or from Europe. And that we are Marxists and so forth. They will disallow to the, and it's almost religious, that they believe they are the representative of the exploited people of the world in a traditional Marxist socialist view of things, and they put that forth. But it seems sort of, to me, it looks awfully like a traditional, almost Dickensian capitalism that they have in that country, but they will not allow any resort to Lao Tzu or to Confucian or any spiritual thing. Qigong they have, which is a way, a health thing, but it's also got spiritual They will not have any association with that because, as Karl Marx had said, religion is the opium of the people, a way of deceiving the people and so forth, and it isn't in keeping with a view. That's a major transformation of a major country in Asia that is relevant. Am I off base in the terms of the way China's operated now? It almost has as a basic religious proposition Marxism, and they claim that they are the fulfillment of the Marxist view. Or can you relate to that?
I disagree. I disagree.
You disagree that that is correct?
Yeah.
You think they still maintain their spiritual traditions?
Yes, some of them.
Okay, okay,
yes.
please. Yeah, explain me. You're much closer to it there. That's a major economy.
Some of them using market economy.
Yes, absolutely. It looks like
capitalist
capitalism.
Economy.
Doesn't it look like capitalism to you?
But the dominant one is socialism.
Yeah, they're using that as a cover story.
That's right.
Okay, help set us straight on that. And then how much does that dialectic relate to the broader Muslim and also maybe to the broader Islamic world in terms of trying to get at root systems that are coming out of history, spiritual traditions that conflict with the demands of a modernist view that's come to inform the world since the Enlightenment.
Yeah, in Islam still like that, you know, they claim that they are Muslim, but maybe they don't practice Islam 100%, right?
They don't practice. Well, the Muslims, as I understand, would be more amenable to the Western model that the Western world, since colonialism, has imposed on the world. So they could start talking about Keynes and Marx and Schumpeter and all these kind of things, right? Okay.
We have a lot of capitalists in Islamic country, right?
Okay, yes.
Muslim country, sorry.
Well, that's the distinction. That's the distinction we should make. Right?
Yes, of course.
Islam.
Yes.
Muslim. And is it the Muslim that's growing, or is it the Islam that is growing? And what is the source of the growth of Islam? It's the fastest growing spiritual movement in the world now, coming into Europe and so forth. So
there is a very good quotation from Muhammad Abduh. Is the rector of University of Al-Azhar.
Okay,
he went in Cairo. He went to the West, and what he say, West practicing Islam, Muslim doesn't practicing Islam.
You think that's more or less true? Yeah.
More or less true.
Okay. Okay.
For example, how to handle promise, for example, healthiness, cleanness, on time, if you have a promise, and gentleman. It is the Islamic values, but not practicing by Muslim, right?
And again, that division, it would be good to have statistics on what part of that. It's about 1/4 of the world now.
Yes, now Muslim.
And growing.
Majority.
And what, just as a rule of thumb, what percentage, and you made the distinction that...
26%, more than Catholics now.
Yeah, more than the Catholics, right, okay. But of that, you make the distinction between, because we have Christianity, and then we have all the way over to humanists to hardcore Jesuits or something, you know, that kind of thing. But what percentage of that so-called Islamic or Muslim would be Muslim as opposed to Islamic, do you think? 26%?
I cannot make percentage,
50,
but no, less than that.
Less of the Islamic.
If it is
Orthodox,
majority, if it is majority, it means it can be reflected in the social life of Muslim.
And political.
In any sector, political, economy, culture. So you can see whether, for example, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Indonesia.
Right, okay. Malaysia?
No, Malaysia, a little bit, but Malaysia is now, can be say, developed countries, right?
Yeah, it's really
Malaysia, because they can manage their own economy. It's very good. But if you go to Bangladesh, poverty is there. If you go to Pakistan, there is no peaceful there. Conflict each other.
It's very conflict.
Indonesia also.
Indonesia also, right?
Yeah, that's for almost 20% is under property line. And you know, in Islam, normatively, nobody will be become under poverty line.
Under a poverty
line, because I have a responsibility to help 40 people surrounding me. In Islamic value, you are not Muslim. If there is your neighbor is still poor. You are not Muslim.
You're not Muslim, you're not Islam.
You are not. You are not Islam. Sorry.
Because the Muslim seems
you
to be more in sync with the scientific world. Or the
you are not
secular.
applied. You are not applied Islam if your neighbor still in poor. Right?
Well, that's ethics and justice, and those questions are very important to Islam and to Muslims. And it's also important to certain Christians who have a certain view of that, but they don't follow very carefully. They don't go to church or something, or there's differences of degree.
I think we have to make differences between normative and empirics.
I wonder if we could come at it from a spiritual, for want of a better term, a spiritual tradition of the religions or the wisdom schools out of history and so forth. We had a number of them, and we had Moses, and we had the Judaic tradition, and then we had Jesus and the Christian, and then we had Islam. This is in the monotheistic kind of thing. And one of the things that there was in terms of related to the real world of, let's just say, economics. You're an economics theoretician as well. There was a proscription in all of those systems that came from those spiritual leaders against what's called usury, or the inappropriate use of the concept of interest in terms of the economic order. It seems to me, if we look at the Federal Reserve and the way in which the system in the United States works and so forth, the West got around the proscription against usury, and that it became very effective in terms of the way we were going to organize and manipulate or utilize the economic order in which we relate to one another. Is that still a major issue? Are there not places within the scholarly part of Islam scholarship that still hold with the idea that you want to very carefully not have your system be one in the economic order that involves usury, or they call it ribat, and that they still hold with that and would try to have a system that is trying not to give in to the temptation to include usury and interest manipulation by money changers and that sort of thing. And do you understand what I'm saying? And if you do, could you comment on that? Is there a distinction within the Islamic world around the idea of proscription against usury, and is it relevant to the modern world?
In Islamic values, every rules from Prophet, as far as come from the God, this Islam. That is what Islamic assume.
Yeah, right.
And one of the issue in economic is riba.
Right, riba. Does that
all religion.
Is that usury?
Yes,
is that
usury.
Okay, usury.
Usually,
it's a major issue
in interest.
In our
interest.
Yes, okay.
All religions, Jews, Christian, and Islam, ban riba.
Bend that rule.
Ban the riba.
Including Islam?
Yes, of course.
Are there not? Okay,
Jews, Christian, Buddhists, Hindus, ban. Doesn't disagree with implementation of riba or usury or interest.
They're all against it.
Yes.
But they do it?
I don't know. You
know better
than
me. I'm asking you. It seems to me there are people. I did a program with first.
They still do it.
They still do it. Okay.
They still do it.
Measure? In equal measure?
In Indonesia, 97%.
Yes.
Banking system still. Banking system still using riba.
Or they're still using it.
Riba.
They've gotten around the ancient prescriptions, right? Okay, in Indonesia, and they're with the modern world that has
Saudi Arabia also the same thing.
Okay.
In Malaysia, around 85%.
It's a dead issue. Then it doesn't that prescription of all the ancient schools, wisdom schools, against usury has just simply been overridden by the modern demands of the modern economy, and it's no sense in talking about it anymore, that it's perfectly all right not to repair to that proscription that has been part of the wisdom schools, and that we're just going to go with the system that is in place now, because we're going to get to a point where a good deal of the Islamic world, or there is not only being scapegoated, but is also questioning the basic premises by which the world is organized. One of which might have to do with the way the economic institutions and the economic means by which there is a Islamic critique, a paradigm of paradigm critiques of the order of the neoliberal pattern that's imposed upon the world by the Western world and so forth. And there's a critique, and one part of that would be that this idea of resorting to riba
or usury
would
speculation.
Speculation. Here we just had a meltdown of the economy and that.
Uncertainty, greedy.
Yeah.
All are banned by all religion. That is the root of the global economic crisis.
And that's the root of the economic crisis.
Yes.
Is the bending to that. Okay, but are there circles within Islamic, maybe intellectual circles, where people who understand economic theory and they understand things in a very well, which could use the idea or repair to the idea of the proscription against usury as a basic premise for criticizing the overall assumptions of the world economy? And is there not better organization along those lines within the Islamic world by which the world could learn a better and more just system than the one that they've accepted out of the colonizing efforts of the West?
The answer is Islamic bank, Islamic finance.
Bank. And there are people who believe in that.
Not only Muslim. Not only Muslim.
Okay.
Like Citibank. They have now a unit under their bank. They have Islamic bank.
What's the difference between that unit and the rest of their banking endeavors?
There's no usury. There is no greedy. There is no uncertainty. There is no speculation. There is no
venture capitalism.
It's okay. It doesn't matter.
Okay, what's the difference in that branch of Citibank, or more to the point, the influence from the Islamic world that could inform the world economy in terms of the crisis we're currently in terms of a larger evolution of affairs on a large scale? They could be informing the world in a way that we should be understanding that what they're informing us about is something that's beneficial to the whole world, rather than scapegoating them by taking out certain aspects of Islam, characterizing it in our publications and do you understand what I'm trying to say? There's lessons that we could learn from them in the Islamic banking effort.
I can give you a lot of data about the benefit of Islamic bank compared to conventional bank.
Thank you.
First, there is no speculation.
No speculation. How can you have an order where you're going to have investment? There's risk inherent in the economic
risk
order.
Different from speculation.
Okay. But then let's say venture.
Venture is risk.
Yes.
It is musyarakah.
That's what the term
is. We call it cooperation.
Is that in what language?
It's okay.
No, what language is that? Musyarakah.
Musyarakah is Arabic language.
Arabic. Okay. Arabic's an important language within the Islamic
sure,
realm.
of course.
Yeah, sure, okay,
because the Prophet is come from Arab.
Right.
We have to understand the language of the Prophet.
Well, I think in the West we would call that venture.
Yes.
Venture capital.
Venture
more
capital
risk,
is okay.
more return. That kind of thing. A big crapshoot, they would say. Yeah. Okay.
And in Islam, you are not encouraged to have debt, like what happened now in the West.
Right. Okay.
No, if you don't able to buy something, don't use debt.
Okay.
You have to be patient before you able to buy a car, for example. So don't use debt. Debt interest, and becoming bubble economy.
Particularly if the interest is usury.
Yes.
And
it is usury.
Yeah, look at what they do with the credit cards. They get the card 20-30%.
Yes.
You know, it's crazy. Yeah.
And another point is the banking institutions.
Okay.
Banking institution creates money from nothing.
That's the central banks, like our Federal Reserve here.
Yes.
Yeah, and federal and banks around the world.
Federal bank and commercial bank creates money from nothing, just because of legal system and
because
banking
of
system.
What system?
Legal system.
Legal.
Because fractional reserve. Because the system, banking system, allow a bank to give credit to others.
Sure.
Only you have retained reserve requirement.
Reserve
10%,
requirement. Yeah.
10%, for example.
Right.
So if bank has money 10%, they can give money. If you have money 1 million, they can give credit to others 10 million.
Yeah. Right.
So 10, the money is there, only 1.
Okay.
The money there, existing money only 1, but he can create money 10 million.
Yeah, well, it's going to have,
use
banking.
this money?
That's banking.
Oh, that's banking.
Yeah, that's banking. Yeah, right.
That is usury.
Yeah. Now, is it usury?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Is there a difference between the Federal Reserve System we have here in the United States and the central banks of other nations around the world? A lot of people take exception to the Federal Reserve. It's privately owned. It's part of the banking industry, whereas central banks are part of the governmental structure in other countries. Is there a problem with the particular nature of the Federal Reserve?
One of the problems.
One problem.
One problem.
With
because
the American
Federal
economy,
Reserve Bank in America does not owned by people.
It's owned by the banking system. Yeah, right. Since
in other countries, owned by government.
It is. In all other countries, it's owned by the government for the most part.
Yeah, mostly.
Are there any others that have a model similar to us?
I don't think so.
System,
I don't think so.
So we're unique in that.
You're very unique.
Yeah.
Owned by the private.
Okay, and that's an important distinction.
They create money from nothing. And they
that thing comes off the trunk, but the creating of the money, if I may, just in a very innocent kind of way, economics.
That is the core of the problem.
Well, in a very innocent kind of way, you would have supply and demand as the principle of economics, and we have all kinds of economic theory. But if you print more, if you don't have the allowing of money supply in the economy has to be keeping up with production, because if you have little production, but you have a lot of printing of dollars, you're going to have inflation, runaway inflation, and that's the problem.
In Islam,
so the money supply should be in keeping with what the production is, and that supply and demand should be in sync, right?
That is what we call in Islam real economy,
as opposed to financial.
It's the what we call it, the focus of the economic development, the real economy, not the monetary. What happened in modern world is they built monetary economy.
Because they could print it out of nothing? Is that what you're saying?
Because that does not affect the real economy.
Yeah, but isn't the Federal Reserve and all of that supposed to monitor that you do not have too much money and credit being put out there and if you don't have the good, see, you have to have supply. You got the supply side, then you got the demand side, and the people have to have income to clear the market. They have to have a way of having income, so that you don't put the money out unless you've got a way in which you're not going to have runaway inflation. They have to guard against that, don't they?
You're right.
Turn out money by printing paper.
Turn out money, and real economy is still small.
Yeah, right.
It is what called bubble economy.
Yeah, right.
That's what happened now.
That's what just happened to this last year or so. Yeah, right. Okay, and that was
so in Islam you cannot do it.
Okay.
Your focus, your emphasis on real economy, on economic development, employment, product, service.
Measuring the actual production.
Not monetary.
Okay. Now, when you've got the Islamic, where do they have that? And there's a lesson to be learned by the whole world, perhaps from this notions of Islamic economic theory.
Yes, of course.
I'm not sure who the great Islamic economic theorists. All of our economic theorists, if I may, are, from Adam Smith to Ricardo to Keynes. It's all Western European thing that sets the canon for thinking about the world economy, is it not? Didn't you study economics and you had to study Keynes and Ricardo?
Yes, we studied that.
Who is the great Islamic economist that has a view of representing the wisdom of the Islamic way of seeing things that is an economic theorist? Mr. Nixon said in 1972, we're all Keynesians now, the whole world. Who are we all now, and who out of the Islamic world can we repair to get some of the wisdom of Islamic thinking that maybe is important to the way we could understand not only the current problem that exists for the world economy, but the future as we move ahead as a whole human society?
If you study the history of Islam,
yes,
mostly they expect on any sector or any field, they don't have separation between economic, politic, medical. Like Ibn Sina.
Yeah. Okay. Like what?
Avicenna. Averroes. It is the philosopher.
Oh, okay.
The philosopher on 9th centuries.
Oh, okay,
All right?
okay. I'm not familiar. Okay, see,
oh,
that's
yeah,
my problem.
yeah, it is,
I want to learn. See?
you have to learn.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Adam Smith learned from them.
Oh, really?
Oh,
now,
sure.
what was the name? A name
Avicenna Averroes.
Averroes.
Avicenna Averroes.
That's a
Masque
person?
away.
That's a
Yeah,
person? Okay, you're going to send me links to this person because I don't know.
Oh,
You
yeah,
see how
yeah.
ignorant
Oh,
I
yeah.
am. And I venture 99% of the population in America would never heard
Adam
the name.
Smith on 18th centuries. This is 9 until 14th centuries.
I see. Okay.
So they are expert. Yeah? They were expert not only on economics, not only on social, but also in medical and also in Sharia.
Right. And they'd be
that is what we call it integrated.
Yeah, right.
That is we call it not separated between state and religion.
And you think Adam Smith learned from this person?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
we have a lot of books on that.
Why are we not? And I'll wager 99 and 9, as far as the eye can see, people in the United States will have never heard of this person who's so interested, so important in terms of economic theory for the planet. Why have we not heard of him?
We have to see the history of how church and rationalism conflicting each other.
We call that the
Enlightenment.
Enlightenment.
Yeah,
1776, United States of America, the steam engine, Adam Smith, and everything, the modern world.
We have to.
Now, who in the modern world? We have Keynes. You've studied Keynes. You're Keynesian. You understand Marx. You understand Schumpeter. You understand Van Hayek. You understand Friedman. They're Chicago guys. You understand all this. We understand all that. But who in the modern world that brings the wisdom of the Islamic view of things that may be relevant to the way the whole system should be set up, can we repair to rather than going back to hundreds of years back in history?
Of course, because we are dominated by Western, Occidental civilizations.
Okay.
Of course.
From colonialism.
Yeah, but you cannot compare their name, their small name under the cover, and underground,
but what
compared to Adam Smith.
I understand. Okay, so
that's
the canon. That's the canon. The Western model is the canon. That's what's being protected by the system in place, and that's called legitimate in a historical sense. We got empire and armies all over the world to enforce that view. We have the United States as an imperial power. We have that. Now, there's opposition that could be done to the world order.
We have it.
That is thought of as legitimate. One important source of that legitimate, of a new system that could perhaps subsume and bring a new and more just order to an unjust system out of history would be coming from the Islamic banking world and from the Islamic
from India,
Muslim world.
From
and we should
Pakistan.
Okay.
From India, from Pakistan, from Al-Azhar.
Okay.
From Indonesia.
Well, that's Cairo.
It was starting around 1940s, 1950s, after independence of Muslims country.
Yeah, it began to emerge.
It began.
Really in the 50s.
Yeah,
really.
on the 50s.
From colonial.
From colonial.
Yeah, right.
But the system still
is
controlled by the West.
Yes, right.
So if we are studying Islamic economies, we have a lot of people touch on Islamic economy.
Okay.
And you cannot make them similar to Adam Smith because, they starting to thinking about the Islamic economics, but they don't practicing. They just make explanation.
We made a distinction earlier in this conversation about Muslims and Islam. Okay, so that's interesting. So will the impetus to something different, or let's say they just assume, it's assumed by, let's say, Washington and so on, we are legitimate historically. We are the wave of history. We've got the pattern that's good for the whole world, and we are legitimate. And these other things that want to somehow bring into question our assumptions of how we're going to organize things are terrorists. They're trying. George Washington was called a terrorist by George III. Nelson Mandela was a terrorist because you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Now, a source of inspiration for a paradigm of paradigm shifts, which includes all aspects of a major transformation, is now upon the planet. The time of a major transformation is here. People are looking for understanding of how can we encompass the historically impaired what changes have happened that make a new way of operating the whole of the international relationship and all of the nations and the people of the world in terms of the march of history and technology and so on? People are looking for something alternative than the traditional canon. And we only have the people who are reifying the traditional canon being heard within the media and so forth, because they've all studied in European universities, European system. Where are the inspirations that might be coming in a positive sense to benefit the whole of society from Islamic or Muslim sources? And maybe it'll be coming from Islamic sources, and maybe we should be listening to them rather than deifying them. I mean, not deifying, satanizing them, or calling them the modern problem that the world has to overcome and send armies to defeat because they're critical of the system that's in place.
You can listen from the capitalist expert also, like George Soros.
George Soros or Geithner Stiglitz, yeah. Okay, go on.
And another one is Robert Barbera. He write about the cost of capitalism.
Okay.
You also can study from the Marx, the limitation of capitalist system.
Yeah.
And also from Islamic expert.
Okay, who are the Islamic ones?
I can give you many
Good,
names.
You're going to send me a whole bibliography, okay?
Masudul Alam Chaudhry,
okay,
Umar Chapra, Najatullah Siddiq, and many.
Many, okay.
Many.
You're going to send me a link of all those,
Oh, sure.
Right? Okay, that's going to be good. And you can send it out, and I can try and get it out to others so we can begin
a lot
to
of
do
things
some thought. And then what is the difference that it would make? We should, rather than, we should begin to understand that we can learn from those quarters
and now,
things that are relevant to justice and a transformation that we want to subsume the outdated system and create a system that is more just in keeping with what this future time allows.
The close
in terms
one,
of meeting the needs of the people and the ecology.
Close one, you can study from Larry Summers.
Larry Summers.
You know
well, he's there. He's up on the. He's the one who's guiding the whole thing now.
What he is going to do now? To make limitation on debt.
Okay, that's a big issue.
To make limitation on speculation.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So this is the examples of the wrong of
you think that Larry Summers is wrong?
No,
in
no.
His basic assumption.
Larry,
is that what you're saying?
No,
because he's directing the whole thing now, or largely he and Geithner.
If you want to know who is expert on Islamic economy,
yeah, who?
I told you, any expert who are criticize capitalist systems quite similar to Islamic economy. Like I say, Larry Summers.
Oh, you think he is correct in his assessment of the world?
He is correct to limit debt.
Okay.
He is correct to control speculation.
Okay.
He is correct to control re-engineering of debt, financial instrument, etc., etc., who make us like here a global crisis.
Okay.
So Islam in the beginning say ban debt.
Ban debt. Ban debt. Well, Mr. Keynes used to do some deficit spending and everything to get the economy going. You needed demand, and so that's part of a.
That is happened to the environmental destruction, because we consume now actually for the future. So you consume now.
Well, yes.
Just actually for the future.
Help me out a little bit. You're an economist, right? And you're going to make a business person or any enterprise is going to make an investment that is going to pay for itself out of its future earnings.
Yeah, but
that's the logic of business finance.
But
so that is, in a certain sense, a bet on the future. And there's always an element of economic risk and economic order.
You have to consider. You have to consider the capability of environment.
The capability
you have
of the
to consider the new generation,
yeah.
the next generation.
Yeah, that's something very important about
global
warming.
Don't take the new generation's consumption now. That is what happened now.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Well,
you don't deserve to buy a car because you don't have money, but you owe them.
Yeah, right.
You owe them, and
right.
you pay them by debt or financial instrument.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, right.
So in fact, this consumption is for the next generation.
Well, yeah, but that's always been the case, because you have to have seed corn, you have to have the ability to do that. But then we got into the last 20 years or so, you'd be familiar, we got into a thing where within the private sector, say in the American, or I guess the world banking economy, we get into the swaps and derivatives.
Yeah.
They came up. And that was a way within the private sector of dealing with various levels of risk within the economic order. There's always we don't have a system within the federal system next to the Federal Reserve to deal maybe in a reassuring way among an insurance system that will deal with the elements of risk involving the federal system itself, but that they did it all within the private sector, and then it got to become almost out of hand. But there are different levels of risk within the economic order, and they have to have a system that can deal with that.
Everywhere.
Because you got to have room for venture and for attempting new things. You can't have it all just be very carefully, parsimoniously.
It is not wrong.
Yeah.
It is not wrong.
Yeah.
The wrong one is greedy.
Well, greedy is okay. That's a biggie.
Greed is wrong.
That's a biggie. Yeah, that's greedy.
Wrong.
So you want people to stop. You want people to stop being greedy, or you don't want to have any place for greed at all.
No.
Are we going to have a little place for the guy who wants to do something in a star-like kind of way? He wants to do something really big. He doesn't want to just build a little bit more.
Not greedy.
He wants to be
greedy
but greedy
is
would be. Is Tiger Woods greedy by winning every damn thing in wood? You want to wipe out the people that are real stars.
If you are greedy,
you know what I mean?
To help people, it's good. Not to take others' own.
Is he greedy by winning all the golf things and becoming a star?
No, it is
not. Or
is,
all the stars. Babe Ruth, is he greedy for hitting all those Babe?
No, it is performance.
Yeah,
performance.
You want everyone to be the same? Everything you don't. You want some difference, and you want some risk take. So you're going to deal with risk.
Yes.
You want risk. You want entrepreneurial. You want Schumpeter, right?
But don't be greedy.
Don't be greedy. How are you going to? Okay, that's
don't
the thing
be greedy. For example,
that's the thing that becomes philosophical.
You own a car.
Yeah.
Only you need one car. So there's the difference between need and want.
That's a biggie too, isn't it? That's right. Now,
need and want.
Well, if you need all you really need is a loaf of bread and a little water. You can survive. You don't need any. If you define
Otherwise,
I've noticed in those systems where they distribute according to need, they keep it very minimal. And then there are people still living in a palace with their yachts and all that kind of thing. And there are people that want to have things more than just the ordinary life needs.
No, you have to help them.
Because needs could be, you want reasonable wants. You want
yes, of course, I agree.
You want to increase the
as
living
a minimal
standard of the people.
Substance level.
Right.
You have to
beyond
help them.
minimum. You don't want them living like cattle. Yes. They would survive in a stable, but you don't want to just, that's what I'm saying. And you want to have a capital available for expanding and for making more, producing more and so forth. But you got to have a system where the people are going to, and Lord Keynes, who you studied, I think he was major to you, he said in the letter to his grandchildren, they're going to be, that's about now, they're going to be confronted with technological displacement of labor in the productive process, and we distribute all income to people by their labor or job participation. The labor theory of value is out of date. And we have to have a different way of distributing demand so that the supply and the demand are in sync so that we don't have runaway inflation or bubbles.
The knowledge maybe go through Keynes. The knowledge maybe go through animals, through trees, through mountains, through water, through that is all natural made by the God. All one system. You have to make that system in one, united, integrated. Otherwise, like economy, we make a special field on economy.
That's wrong.
That's wrong.
It's all one system. It is.
We forget the environment. We forget the.
Well, maybe we have the luxury now. When we were in a cave, we didn't have a hell of a lot of luxury because we were just trying to get something to eat.
Yes.
You know, and something. But now we have the luxury. There's an article I showed you just briefly. I'll send it to you by a fellow Erickson or Anderson, Chris Anderson at Wire. He said we have to start planning. He said tech is becoming too cheap to meter. We have to start planning for abundance rather than scarcity. Scarcity
Sure.
has been the condition
You are
in
right.
which all has emerged, and we need to have a model that can relate to
Islamic
what the future requires rather than what we've inherited out of history. And I think some of the examples of that are going to come from an appropriate understanding of the lessons of Islam and Muslim.
That is same in Islamic economy. Allah provide us abundant
All right.
of good and service.
There's a big
but
difference.
Some people, a few people, control it.
All right.
It
Now they
doesn't give it to others.
Yeah, but Sofyan, they always have. You had the emperors in Rome.
Yeah,
you had the kings.
that's why.
Always.
Yeah.
But now it's always been economics, and many people, they define it as the allocation of scarce resources. People can't get used to the other. There is enough for everybody. We've transcended scarcity, perhaps, at an ontological
That is why
level.
we need the government.
Okay.
That is why we need government. We need the system. We need the control system. We need reward. We need penalties.
We
right?
need a qualitative transformation.
Yes, of course.
Now, those things we're looking for. And I'm not at all sure we're just reifying. Mr. Obama is only going to create jobs. They're only going to distribute income according to the labor theory of value. They're going to start expanding ownership of the means of production as a way of distributing income, and they haven't even hardly got to
Obama
that
is
yet.
Fixing the symptom.
Yeah, right. We want to deal with the cause.
Not the core.
Yeah,
symptom.
the cause we want to deal with,
Yes.
and it is we're going to
in 1970, you know,
we only got about a couple minutes left.
The Club of Rome.
Club of Rome, yeah, they
encouraged the government to make zero growth.
Yeah, I know. They were very Malthusian. I
Zero
think they
growth.
were wrong. I think they were wrong, to tell you the truth.
No, if the global warming now, the dangers of global warming, environment destruction, I think that is the evidence of what they were saying last time.
Well, okay.
It's very dangerous.
Well, that's very parsimonious. I think they got a system where they can blame the people for the trouble because they could get by with a 5-watt light bulb rather than a 10-watt light bulb, that they've been wasting all that electricity, the people, for being so profligate by having a little light in their little place where they live, rather than blaming the people who set up the system inappropriately. I think it's a danger in that.
Another point, we cannot ask other people to use our standard, right? Especially in happiness.
Oh, in happiness. Great income accumulation does not translate into happiness. Mr. Greenspan said that. That's really, they thought that's happiness if you got the
Greenspan
it isn't.
apologized what he has done.
Well, he did, yeah. Anyway, major changes.
Larry Summers
Larry
also criticize or revise the policy of Alan Greenspan.
Okay, it's your pleasure. Sorry we run out of time. We got your link up. You can go to you. I have a good flight back, Sophia.
Thank you very much.
He's leaving tonight. Your pleasure to have his perceptions. We invite you to. We're coming back again tomorrow. Sofyan Harahap, and he's out of Indonesia, an economist. Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome. Very welcome.
Helping to educate us to the role of Islam, the important positive role of Islam to the problems that confront the modern world. Thank you very much. Safe trip back to Jakarta.
Thank you.
Please stay tuned. We'll be coming back, tune in tomorrow. We'll be coming back again. So that's about it. It seems to me we're probably getting close, but we're still talking. There we go. Okay,